Monday, March 11th will come to order. Please call the roll.
Garros.
Here.
Durham.
Here.
Walker.
Here.
Flood.
Here.
Kosher and Sweet. Absent with those.
Okay, so we have a quorum.
Who is?
Next, we have the minutes for the February 25th regular meeting. Any motions to correct or to accept?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve as presented.
Okay.
Support.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion remains the same. Okay, motion passes. Next, we have agenda review and approval. We have two business cases, and that has not changed, so we'll go along with the first case, AB 2019-06, Dustin Carey at 362 Shorewood Court, 09-03-405-013. Petitioner is requesting two variances from zoning ordinance 78. Article 27, Sections 2701C, 1B, lot width 50 to 54 feet. A 5'7" side yard setback variance from the required 6-foot side yard setback to build a deck 3 inches from the side property line south. Article 6, 604, District R3, a 6.99% variance above the allowed 25% lot coverage for a total of 31.99%. Mr. Carey.
Yes.
Could you explain to us why you need this? First of all, you were here before for variances.
Right.
And you didn't use them. Is that correct?
Unfortunately, yes, I didn't qualify for the loan that I needed to get the construction done. I was about $30,000 short, so I'm going to have to wait.
So those have all expired?
Correct.
Okay. Please go ahead.
So when we purchased this property back in June of 2017, and we moved in, we had a deck already existing there. After living there for some time, checked out one section of the deck because we have a retaining wall that's, not doing so well. And among checking that retaining wall on the deck, I found that basically there was nothing that was holding up the deck. It was kind of just on these screws, cement, screwed into the cement. So it just wasn't safe at all. So what I did basically was remove the unsafe section of the deck and then replace it just with new decking material. New posts and everything.
So the drawing that you submitted, you're showing the deck over the top of the retaining wall actually on the drawing. Is this a factual representation?
Yes.
So you actually built the deck over the retaining wall?
No, there's posts on the other side of that retaining wall. There's posts that go into the ground.
Uh-huh.
So it's not sitting on a retaining wall.
Okay. But the retaining wall is underneath your deck for that portion?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Question by the board?
Sir, you were familiar with variances because you were here before.
Yes.
Why wouldn't you? Well, let me start fresh. Your pre-existing deck would have been a non-conformity, I believe, as long as it was pre-existing. When you removed the non-conformity and put a new deck in, the new deck had to come to current standards. That's where your problem is. You were unaware of all of this?
Yes, I wasn't aware that for a deck, if I replace something that's unsafe, then I'm going to have to get...
Nonconformity never came up in your last... I was at the last meeting, but it's been a year out. I don't remember. Did that language never came forward at that time?
For the house that's close to a street, like in my mind, a deck and the house aren't one and the same. So I guess, if you're asking me what my definition of a deck is, and I don't understand like exactly what is considered a house and what's considered a deck. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm learning that there's a lot of different rules of what's a structure and what's not a structure. And so that's what I've learned in this process. Obviously a house is more of
and I don't mean to verbally abuse you, but one phone call would have saved you a lot of trouble. Thank you.
Okay. Mike?
No, I'm trying to read all these documents we just got.
Got a lot.
Yeah.
Dot?
Not right now.
Okay, we do have correspondence from 350 Shorewood Court. Bill, Shelley, and Charlie Preston, and it says, Mr. Carey's recently built deck is on our property line. Mr. Carey never applied for a permit to build a deck. Is it up to code? Okay. Are the support posts for said deck set to the required depth? More importantly, Mr. Carey has compromised retaining walls in place between our homes for 30 years we've lived here. Requesting that the board postpone Mr. Carey's variance request while we dispute the property lines. Also, we are requesting that if he is required to remove the deck, that you also require him to restore to the original status the retaining wall that was compromised when he built the deck. In fact, the retaining wall was understood and maintained by ourselves and all past homeowners of 362 Shorewood Court as the existing property line. That is one of the bases for our property line dispute. Also, when Mr. Carey didn't like the results of the surveyor's stake placements for his property, he simply removed them. We will be retaining our own survey company and having our lawyers submit the proper documents on which Mr. Carey will be receiving copies of. But always have been respectful. Mr. Carey made it clear that we will cooperate and welcome any property improvements as long as our guidelines were in place. Since Mr. Carey never acquired the proper permit, it seems to me that he is doing the process backwards by building the deck and then asking for permission. Okay, so we have that, and then we also have.
Do I have a response to that, sir? Or?
Huh?
Do I have a response to that, sir? Or?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so my stakes are still out there. They're marked with pink. They've been out there since last year, so I'm not sure, what point stakes are out. My other neighbor on the other side, we had wood stakes over there. I've never removed those. He's put some in the sand where they're at. That's still there. So as far as pulling stakes out, that's just an out-and-out lie. If anybody pulled out any wood stakes, those weren't pulled out by me. The metal stakes, however, are still there. They have their marks, so that just doesn't make sense to me. As far as maintaining the wall wasn't built correctly, which is why it's falling over. There's no dead man anchors in that wall. You could visibly see that it's falling over. So short of me coming out of pocket for however much it costs to build a wall, 20, 30,000 along that whole side, I mean, I don't have 20 to 30,000 to just throw on a wall. So I need to try to do something to save, what I have. So asking me to maintain a wall that now they're saying that they built, essentially that's what I'm getting from you hearing that. And not to mention that whole driveway that they have, if you look at the aerial shots, I've gone on Oak Gov, and I've looked at aerial shots. Back in 1990, that driveway was built, and now that driveway is pushing water onto my property. So they did, in fact, probably build that wall. That's my gathering, in order to fill dirt and then to put driveway there, which is now causing problems for me. I'm not bringing that to their attention. All I'm trying to do is rebuild a deck that was already existing, and it's already in. Like if you look at the Oak Gov aerial shots, I mean that deck was already there. I've had the property line marked. I've had a surveyor come out 3 different times to ensure that I'm within the property line. I had it marked. Hopefully, when you guys were out there, I had a string drawn, and so it's 3 inches from that. I paid my builder multiple times to cut it back to the right length. So there's nothing, like I'm not trying to take their property. I'm just trying to replace what was already there in that aerial shot that you guys have.
You had a current dispute with your neighbor on it?
No, I wasn't aware that we had an issue. So
okay. We also have correspondence from John Bedden. It is admirable for the applicant is concerned with the structural safety of the newly constructed deck, but applicant's concern for safety arose only after he was advised by the township that a permit was required for the deck. As such, it is unclear the applicant satisfied all necessary codes with respect to the safety of the deck. I'm sure the township will make sure that's happening. It is also worth noting that applicant did not replace the former deck with another deck similar in size and design, but in fact expanded the size and design of the deck, adding the stairs to the north side of the deck. Moreover, applicant's intent in building the new deck was not merely for safety reasons. Applicant desires to expand the square footage of his overall structure with the intent of selling the property for personal gain. I don't know anything about that. Please note that the property line is approximately 1 or 2 feet to the south of the position of the existing brick wall or fence. Applicant is aware of these stake positions. Okay. again, I guess, is your deck the same as you
Well,
took out?
it's actually within the property line, so before it was exceeding the property line. Now I've brought it back.
Okay, now what about the stairs? So you have stairs in there too? That wasn't in the original deck?
Stairs going down, so previously we had, like bricks around an area that made a porch. And so, all that is causing water issues, so we just put a deck where the porch was, which is already, what I was told by upstairs, was already counted as part of the footing of the house. So, I didn't ask for variance for that. We needed stairs to go down to that. So if I need to request stairs, I guess, but I think in this, we're asking for more square footage than what was actually on that south side. So, that would cover, at least the stairs in that case. And the stairs are in the permit plan.
Okay, why don't you just sit off for a minute and we'll see what your neighbors, I'm sure there's somebody here to speak to this and they can come up and then we'll get your answers from there. Okay, if you'd like, please state your name and your address for the record, please.
Hi, it's Charles Peterson, 350 Shorewood, and
Okay.
we're to the south of the disputed encroachment.
Okay,
I don't really know the process or what the format is, but I don't know if this is a place to air out neighborhood dirty laundry, but
no, we're interested in finding facts out about the deck is what we're interested in.
okay. Because really there's been a whole lot of drama in the neighborhood relating to this, and I figure you guys probably don't want to hear about that, but I definitely stand up here in fear of retaliation because of what's happened with some of the other neighbors. But bottom line, the reason we're here is the positioning of the property and space of property on Shorewood, specifically the stretch of street. Homes are very close together. Property lines are very important to maintain so as to maintain the already tight spaces each house has. B, zoning regulations are established to keep this consistent and to spare the already tight property lines. C, this is a simple matter where the zoning variance should have been applied for up front. The entire circumstance would have been completely avoided had the rules been followed as intended. Dustin willingly neglected to follow the rules due to the fact that he would not get permission to build so close to the property line. An approach of ask forgiveness later should not be rewarded with a variance being granted. If this variance is granted, then a potentially dangerous precedent will be set for current and future landowners around the lake. If this situation, a complete disregard for zoning regulations and process, is passed favorably for Dustin, then there is no end to the number of residents that could potentially circumvent the entire zoning process, build as they please, and then maybe ask for forgiveness later. If in this situation they cite this particular case, there would be no legal leg for the township to stand on for not granting an easement or variance. B, it may go without saying that this type of ruling could/would ultimately cause residents to completely disregard property lines and all zoning regulations.
Okay, I got a question for you. Was there a deck there before?
Not where it currently is.
Where was the deck?
It was behind the house and much smaller.
Okay, so it wasn't on the side of the house where it is now?
No, definitely
Wasn't
not.
no deck there?
Definitely not.
Did it extend over the?
You can see where the retaining wall was removed and the bricks are stacked, so he could bring the deck further over.
Did it extend over the retaining wall originally?
Previously, no. Because you could enter from the side of the property before Dustin moved there. The original deck, you could enter from the side of the property, and there was a staircase going down to the lake, and then the deck to the back of his house. Well, the owner before Dustin cut that off, and there was only access from the back of the house and the stairway down. Dustin cut that off and then extended the deck all the way south to where it currently sits, which is what we believed was our property. Maybe we're off. We haven't gotten a survey. We didn't realize we were going to be thrown into this. My parents are actually in Florida taking care of families' health issues, and none of this was discussed with them. And they came home to find a deck in what they thought was their yard. And here we are.
Okay,
Mr. Chair.
yes.
One question for you, sir. Right at the beginning, you mentioned provocative words like retaliation and things of that nature. Have you felt the need to file for police report?
No, I personally have not. We, as neighbors, have always tried to be cordial and neighborly. We've lived on our street for like 30 years, and we've always gotten along, and everyone's been great neighbors. And as of late, things have changed, and I don't know why, but apparently Father John had some issues with Dustin, and Dustin had some requests for him. Father John said, yeah, no problem, just as long as you get a permit. Dustin didn't like that. Next thing you know, cops are showing up at Father John's door saying that...
Well, let's not stray too far afield. We were going to hold it kind of...
Yeah, we don't want to hear hearsay. We just
Yeah.
want to...
Well, that door should not have been open.
Let's finish this first, okay?
This is what I've heard, and it makes me nervous.
Yeah, well,
Very
So-
good. Thank you.
that's all. Okay, anything else?
Did you supply these pictures?
I'm sorry?
Are these, this packet we got, are those pictures you supplied?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, now, what you're telling us is that you used to be able to walk in on the south side of the building and walk all the way back? There was no deck there?
No, there was previously, probably 6, 7 years ago, an entrance from the south side of the property onto the deck, which immediately dropped down a staircase and also went around the back of the house. It never extended all the way south as far as it does currently.
Okay.
And now,
It was attached to the house though, right?
it was attached to the house, correct.
Okay.
And I could probably supply more pictures. I would just have to go through old family photos and see the deck that's there, or even the fence that used to be there, or the row of trees that used to be there.
Okay. Well, it looks like, even on your pictures, the deck that's off the back of the house has been there a while. Those timbers look older. I don't know how long it's been there, but the back deck's been there a while, and it looks like something was attached to the side of the house, maybe not all the way out, but something was there.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. But you don't know how far from the house.
It probably extended 4 or 5 feet from the house.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions by the board for this gentleman? No. Anybody else here to speak to this matter?
Is it my understanding, sir, have you got this in litigation?
No, we didn't realize this was even an issue
I
until we...
read somewhere in this paperwork there's some litigation going on here.
Well,
It appears that
it said
this is the direction it's headed.
It said that you're going to retain your own survey company to check your lot line?
I believe we would need to. I don't know the process here, but it seems like we're kind of in a pickle, and there's going to be a neighborhood issue.
Did you write that letter?
My mother did.
Okay. And then they're the property owner?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, well, good. Thank you very much for
Thank
your
you.
input. Mr. Karen?
All right.
How far was the original deck over from the house?
I mean, it's there in the aerial shot. So originally, when we had a stop work order placed, I had cement underneath that deck, which needed to be removed. In order to get posts into the ground to support that, they have to be 42 inches in the ground, which required me to put posts on the other side of that wall. So, I mean, it literally goes right on top of over the wall where it was. It's not like I'm not stretching it all the way to the property line. I've spent money, cutting it back. I've spent money getting a survey. Again, having my surveyor come out. The survey lines have been there. The poles have been there. They're marked pink. I mean, I'm not sure. It's been there for a while. It's not like a new thing. His mom did talk to me, and she said, she was surprised by the line. So then I had a second survey. We had Kennedy come out, and then we had another guy come out. So I've paid 2 different surveyors to come out and do this stuff to make sure I'm doing it the right way. And just to speak on my character from John Benton, I'm not going to go into the drama stuff, but I approached him when I first moved in, and I said, hey, look, I have 3 dogs. I would like to take the fence down, which we know was probably built with us because we had the gates matching it. And at my cost, I'll build a new fence. I'll build it on the property line. I'm getting a survey. He's since then has, threatened me with court and all this other stuff. And all really wanted to do was repair a fence that was there. I said I'd pay for it. I didn't have an issue with going to the property line. That's why I've gone out of my way to pay for a surveyor. None of these other neighbors have paid for a survey. I'm not trying to take anybody's property. I'm just trying, I'm trying to make sure my dogs could stay in my backyard, and I'm trying to replace a deck that's there. That's
Okay, what is the
my only
dimension
concern.
from the property line to your corner of your back deck?
How wide's the deck?
Yeah, how wide's the deck?
and on that section.
From the
From the
wall.
property line over to the house and over to your back deck?
To the house is going to be about 7 feet, I'd say.
Okay, and what's if you go to
It's like 6.5,
the
like,
closest point of your back deck to the water, what is the distance from that corner to your lot line?
the back corner to the lot line. 3 inches.
Well, 3 inches from the lot.
Well, it's like 4 inches, because I asked them to do an extra inch just in case if you guys came out and measured, but it should be like 4 inches, but I asked for 3.
So how wide is the deck? That's the question.
The whole deck in the back,
From the
it's,
house out, the whole, from the house to the corner.
the outside, yeah, 6 to 7 feet.
7 feet.
Because it goes in an angle, so as it goes back, you're losing, feet. So it might actually be less than 6 feet. But I know at the front where that wall starts there, at the front of it, it's about 6.5 feet.
Yeah. Just scaling it, it looks like about 9 feet on the drawing. Oh, hang on. This one.
Yeah, when I drew those, I basically took a line for myself and marked from the 2 corners, and it's kind of hard to mark a line through trees, so I was off by probably like half a foot. So since then, I've had my builder come back and cut it twice, 2 different times, cut it, and I had a surveyor come back and put marks in the deck to kind of show where a foot is from the property line, and then we went off of that.
What were you saying? You think it's about 10 feet?
It looks like it's about 9 or 10 feet if you scale it out in this picture.
Yeah.
To me. Plus, because I just see the property line, if there is a dispute, it shows 973 on this front corner.
Right.
And if you scale it back, you're looking at about 973. So if the deck is over 9 feet, if it's not, then it seems to be
Well,
not on the property line.
The 973, so if you start at the front of the property line all the way by the street, you're talking about having almost 14 feet where that marker is. Now, they might dispute it, and maybe it changes because their surveyor has different, the lines are the lines. I don't care. I'm just, like I'm saying, I'm trying to replace my deck. If they find out later that that's a property, fine. I'll
Do you have any?
cut a portion off. Like, I don't have a problem with that. I'm not
You
trying
have
to
a
make problems.
drawing of your deck, just the deck that you're on the side of your house that you built. You have a drawing of that.
That I didn't in the permit, yeah.
You have it with you?
I thought that was part of the package there.
Is that part of the package plan? That's the only drawing we have, correct? We don't have the actual dimensions of the
This
deck?
is what, I have, I think.
Yeah, that's all I saw, too.
Yeah, it's just the surveyor's drawing,
Okay.
but it doesn't call out the width of the deck.
Well, that's neither here nor there, because that'll be obviously in litigation if they get to that point.
Yeah, but
I mean, it gets smaller as it goes back. Like I said, the
Yeah,
very
no.
front by the street is 14 feet, and then that one part you're looking at is 9.73.
well, the
So
house
it
goes in
goes-
and out too, so.
You lose I calculated it's like 4 inches every foot. Every foot you take back, I'm losing 4 inches, right? So you're going closer to my house 4 inches for every foot.
How hard would it be to cut the deck back a little? Would that be a major?
Well,
How
I mean,
far are your footings from the end of your deck?
the footings are just outside the wall, and the deck ends literally right on the beam that's on top of the footings. So they're literally on the other side of the wall, and then the deck ends right there. They even actually cut some of that beam to make sure that it was
Because they're back.
4 inches back.
Did you apply for the permit for that retaining wall?
No, I'm gonna take it down because I didn't, I wasn't aware that it's an issue. I thought I was just trying to hold the wall there
I understand.
longer than it needed to be, so I'm gonna cut it down to 4 feet.
No, that wouldn't be it. This retaining wall is actually block, correct? The one on the south side?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that, like right there's the top of it.
Yeah, it was taken down and rebuilt, and it retained.
No, we didn't take any retaining wall down. The pre-existing retaining wall is still there. I'm not sure. I just put something there because I wanted to keep that section from falling over. It's leaning pretty good.
So that's still there right now, the retaining wall?
Yeah, the pre-existing retaining wall is all still there. I just put up another section trying to hold it from falling back.
Yeah.
And that section's on the inside.
So your footings now are on the other side of the retaining wall between the retaining wall and the concrete drive. Is that correct?
Between, yeah, their driveway
The
and
neighbor's driveway and,
retaining wall, but it's literally retaining wall footing.
So we weren't there originally.
right. Well, okay. Questions by the board anymore?
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Yes,
I do.
please.
Mr. Curry, you were in front of us, looks like about a year ago. We granted you those variances for your buildings,
Yes, sir.
and now you're saying you did not utilize those, is that correct?
Correct. I didn't get the financing I needed for that.
And
so.
do you have any intention of renewing those applications if you could, or anything like that?
Yeah, given market conditions and, I have a baby on the way, and so just given life situation, possibly, maybe in the future, but in the short term, next year or two, probably not.
But you knew that you needed to get variances for those issues, is that correct?
Correct, because I was adding on to my house, like I was doing a whole house addition.
Yeah, I attended that meeting. I voted for you at that meeting.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm asking you a different question now. So you're still planning to maybe do that, even though you'd have to come back again to get?
Not in the foreseeable future, sir. I'm not sure
right, no.
where I'm going to be at.
Do you
in
ever
the
plan to do that at this time?
At this time, probably not.
Okay. And why didn't you ask for a variance with regard to this deck?
I wasn't aware that house and deck are the same type of structure.
I didn't ask you if you thought those two were the same structure. I asked you why you didn't think you had to get a variance for a deck.
Because it was already pre-existing there. I felt like I was just replacing something for safety reasons.
How about the retaining wall? Did you get a permit for that too?
Well, I did that when I came in to apply for the permit. I said, hey, can I have this wall? And so they failed it. So then I said, okay, well, I guess I have to cut it back to, code. But something needs to be there to help hold, that pre-existing retaining wall that's falling over. And,
Yeah,
and
that's
short
what-
of me having $20,000 or $40,000 to do
Right.
that.
When you came in for that retaining wall, the drawing you gave us was examined by our structural engineer, and he determined that it would fail.
Right.
So that's why you rejected the permit,
Right.
and now you want to just tear it down, right?
Right.
Okay.
And that retaining wall was existing when you bought the property?
So
Was that original?
we have a pre-existing retaining wall that goes almost all the way back to the lake, and the first section of it, is where we had the deck and all that. So my thoughts was, since I have a deck here, I probably need to have some kind of thing keeping at least this section of the retaining wall from falling over. So I added my own wall. I put rebar in, and what I thought I could do within my own power to save that from falling over. And I thought maybe later down the road, I'll cut the rest of the wall off because it's going to fall over anyways, and that'll take some pressure off this small section. So essentially now there's 2 walls and just underneath the deck there. But that was my purpose for it. I didn't replace any wall.
Right, right.
Understandable.
Okay. Well, board members, what's your pleasure?
Question for the
Yes,
building.
please.
Do we have any indication about the property? Do we have a specific property line measurement? Do we know where this deck and retaining wall is in relationship to the property line between those two?
The retaining wall, yeah, the survey you have does show the retaining wall that bows in, so he does have some room, according to that survey, which is stamped by
The
licensed
Kennedy's
survey.
survey?
Yep,
Yep.
that retaining wall bows in. So he could extend over that with his variance. Now, how far, I couldn't tell you. But he does own on the other side of that retaining wall per the survey.
My real concern is getting involved in a lawsuit among neighbors with regard to granting a variance, and not crazy about that.
May I offer a suggestion? I'm okay if they want to get a survey done. I'm fine with that. But however, if we cannot force me to have to rip out deck in the meantime while they're figuring that out, that's all I would ask, is that if they want to get their survey and they find out, it's closer. I've had 2 surveys. If they want the surveys, I'll give them to them. If they want to get their own survey, fine. Whatever, there's no need to go to court and stuff over that. I'll abide by whatever lines are found. I just don't make me spend money to tear stuff down that's already existing.
The only thing I would ask is that the deck not be used, because we haven't inspected the posts, I believe. And the fact that they're on the failing side of a retaining wall is concerning, but I don't think, I have no problem with that, but just the use of the deck should be limited, because we're not 100, it wasn't finalized out, so, it's
Well, I'm
available for
thinking
use.
if there is a dispute and the neighbor wants to get a survey, we could postpone our final vote until the survey is done. And if it in fact follows the survey that Mr. Carey has, and it's the same, then, we'll vote with that in mind.
Question for Mr. Gildo.
Yeah.
This gentleman mentioned a stop work order being placed. Was that strictly for the deck and retaining wall?
For the deck.
You were doing something inside, right, too? But
It was for the
deck. And
Yeah, because I replaced that section that I
Yes, it was
thought
for
was
the
unsafe,
deck only.
and so,
Okay, okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
They're asking for a deck to be 3 inches off the lot line.
Okay.
I know we've done decks throughout the township to go into setbacks, but we're talking several feet, not inches.
Right.
This reminds me that a neighbor can put a 4-foot fence up on the lot line,
Right.
not a deck.
Right.
So,
Yeah, no, this is probably the closest we've ever seen for somebody wanting to put a deck as close to the lot line. But again, as tight as all this stuff is, and then one neighbor mentioned, these lots aren't very big to start with, and not only is he asking for permission to put the deck there, but we have to give a lot coverage variance also of 6%, which is, we had granted the lot coverage of 11% before, so
Right.
that probably isn't a real big deal, because it's less than he would have done if you'd have did the house. So,
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Are we looking at offering the applicant the opportunity to have this postponed to a later time?
Well, I'm just thinking among ourselves what we want to,
Well, the only point I would make to the applicant in making that decision is I personally, one man, one vote, I can't support this. So more information would be better for me, just speaking for myself.
right, for what we've seen right now.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know, are you going to get a survey?
My family wants to appeal any approval to the fullest extent of our legal right, because the way this yard is laid out and the way this whole backstory has unfolded, there's a lot more than I'm hearing right now.
He needs to get up on the microphone.
Yeah, you come on up here and you just step off to the side. State your name and address again for us.
These meetings are taped and on the
Yeah,
record.
go ahead. And what were you saying?
Charles Peterson, 350 Shorewood. Yeah, there's just a lot more to this than simply what's being stated, and I didn't come as prepared as I probably should have or knew I needed to be, because I wasn't aware that a final decision would be made today. But we were never furnished with these two surveys, and if there was one survey, why do you need a second survey? And two,
Well, that's not unusual.
okay. But, so we've never been furnished with any of that, and then it's kind of convenient that this deck is installed while my family is dealing with a family health matter out of state. And I don't know if you've talked to the building department, but they're well aware of
This is the building department.
what's going on my street, and it's just been kind of crazy and constant construction. And if you are familiar with our street from the lakeside, there's been a retaining wall since before I moved in there. And I believe it's been refurbished or restructured throughout time by different neighbors. And the way the yards are laid out is his side yard has always almost been driveway for the two houses, whether it be our driveway and their driveway and the vehicles parked there. Well, Mr. Carey told me that he plans on listing his house in April to sell it, and he wanted to get $650,000. And what it appears to me is he's trying to get as much land and as much square footage as he can so he can get that.
Okay, that's hearsay. What I'm concerned about is, I don't have really a problem with the survey because it's a registered land surveyor and it's stamped and it's a local guy, and I mean, we have to go by what's in front of us, facts. And the fact is, he has a registered survey that shows.
And we're fine with the facts as well, and if the survey says what it says, but do we really need to grant a variance that goes feet beyond the building code? Like, I can see a couple inches, a foot, 2 foot, but really, does he need to go 5 feet over the variance into what we thought was our yard? So now his 3 dogs have access to my driveway and jumping on my mother like they did the other day?
So you don't necessarily begrudge the guy having a deck on the side. You're more or less just don't want it all the way over to the edge of the.
Yeah, we don't care. Just before there wasn't enough. It didn't go on to the driveway, and now it does. Where the previous retaining wall, a portion of it has been removed, so the deck can extend all the way as far south as it does.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, it's up to you, members of the board, what you want to do.
I think the question here, Lauren,
Yep.
is, are you comfortable with the 3 inches? Because the survey shows it where it is.
I'm comfortable, this is a survey.
Yeah, I mean, that's what,
Yeah.
that's the question.
I have no problem.
Are you comfortable with the 3 inches? That's, is there a hardship there? What are we looking at?
Just for myself speaking, I already made a statement that I've never approved a deck being that close to a property line.
Right.
I've dealt with fences being within the property line, but a deck is a different story.
We've had people, we've had them go down to 3 foot wide or 4 foot wide, so at least they have some deck on the side. This is, a fairly large addition on the side of the deck, and it goes, like you said, within 3 inches. We've never granted anything that close to a lot line. Regardless if there was one there before, we don't know what was there before.
Well, so,
We don't know that.
I mean, the aerial shot shows
Yeah, you
that.
can't, I'm looking at the aerial shot, I can't tell.
And it's
know.
it's the same, like, I could go on Oak Gov and I've pulled up shots, and that's how I know when a driveway was built. That's how I know when this existing wall was built. I mean, you could backtrack this stuff through time just with the aerial shots. That's how I know. And the fence, just so you know, when I got these surveys done, Mr. Benton on the other side, he's now increased his property size by feet. And so, I'm not encroaching, I'm not going to encroach on there. What I'm trying to do is build, I'm giving him more property, essentially, is what I've done. So, but I can't give property on both sides. The lines that you guys have on the township website here were off, and that's what caused this whole issue, because nobody wanted to pay for a survey and get it done. So I got a survey, got it done. Mr. Benton had the same person come out. He got it done on his side, and so now we're in agreement that, this is his line. I'm not going to encroach on his, and he's not, so there's been no dispute since he got his survey. His property is what it is.
Just come up here for a minute. Is this the portion, this is what we're looking at?
Right, but these whole lines, they're off, they shift.
Well, I'm not worried about that, but this is what we're looking at.
Right.
Okay.
So the lines shift this way, he actually owns, by the survey, this guy actually owns, another 2 feet back here, almost the corner of my house, and then it goes.
It's this side, right here, right?
Yeah, but this is the side we're talking about.
This is the side we're talking about.
Yeah.
It's the south side.
Where's the deck? Where's the?
I don't see.
Yeah, how do you, where's the deck on that side?
Well, that's why I provided the other aerial shot.
I don't see any.
The Oak Grove. Is the Oak Grove aerial shot not in there? The one?
No, we didn't see that.
Yeah, I didn't see one with that one.
All we have is this right here, and this really doesn't show it.
Okay, well, we provided the Oak Grove. It was a 2005 aerial shot of Oak Grove.
Okay.
So I'm not sure why it wouldn't be in there. We turned it in with the pad key.
Okay, thank you. I don't know, I don't have it, so.
If you gave me tonight, I could email it to somebody. You just have to go online and print out 2005 black and white.
Sorry. Okay. You got the survey, so I'm just going to have to go with the survey.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
when the applicant gets back to the mic, I have one question for him.
Okay. Go ahead.
Is there anything that you can do? I think you're starting to get a feel for what's going on here by listening to the crosstalk.
Right.
Is there anything you can do to this deck? Reduce it. Do something to make this situation better. Just you from your end. If you go home, get the proper permits, can you do something that will give us a little more latitude? Or are you locked in solid?
I mean, so he was saying he's never done anything more than 4 or 5 feet from the property line. We're essentially getting rid of that whole walk from the driveway that they were talking about has been already pre-existing, which is what I bought the house with, so I don't...
With all due respect, it is just, can you do something with the situation that is there now to give us a little bit more to discuss if you come back at a later time? Or are you locked in solid and it is what it is?
Well, I guess I'd be asking, what that would be, because are we asking...
I don't know. It's your house. It's your property. I mean, I was there for a few minutes and looked at it. I don't know what you could possibly do. Okay. I know you had builders on site today. I was there. Maybe they can help you. I'm just wondering if there is anything you can do. They've
been helping me. They've cut it back twice to make sure that we're...
All right. Thank you. I still didn't get an answer, but that's okay.
I guess, so my thing is, if we cut it back 4 feet, it's, I guess, just not have a deck there would be...
I'm asking you to can you give us something to make this situation better? I'm not telling you to throw the deck in the lake or anything of that nature. Is there anything you can do, or are you locked down solid? Simple question.
I'm not sure I'm open to suggestions.
Could you cut back 2 feet?
And then repost everything?
Yeah.
I mean, I could, but it would cost me a lot of money for something that I feel was already there. I just feel like it's an unfair financial hardship if I had the property and it was already pre-existing.
Go ahead.
Because basically you have 2 options. Option A, you can get the vote tonight, and then the board's decision is final. If you wanted to come back for a lesser variance, you'd have to pay the fee and reapply. Option B, you can postpone, think about how you want to move forward, if you want to compromise or anything. If that's the case, then you can postpone to a later date and not have to reapply. You understand?
Yes, I understand.
Just wanted
You're
to make
taking
sure
a chance that it'll be turned down tonight, and then you get no deck.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, well, I kind of already see where that might be going, but, I mean, to me, it's just, the financial hardship of it. I mean, this was already there when I bought the house, and I'm just tried to replace something that was unsafe. I'm not trying to like steal anybody's property. I gave property on one side to, you know, and there we have property on the other. It's not about stealing. I wasn't even aware that they had an issue with this. I hadn't even known that they were gone for the past few months.
Okay, regardless, the building department brought up a good point. You've got two choices. You can just, we'll vote on it, and
Right.
you'll accept the vote, whatever it is, or we can postpone it, and maybe you could come up with an alternative that would be better, maybe talk to your neighbors, and would be better for everybody, and then come back, and it won't cost you an additional meeting.
Exactly.
And then maybe everybody would be in harmony at that point, and we could take a vote then.
I mean,
And we can do anything you want. Is that what you want us to do?
I mean, I've discussed it with the neighbors. At first, when they said the wall was theirs, I was fine with that fact, and then I got the survey and found out it's something different. But then in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, well, if the wall is yours, you got to maintain it, and it's falling over onto my property. So, I mean, realistically, asking me to pay 20 or 40 for a wall, or asking them, it's probably not going to happen either way, right? Like, I don't expect them to just shell out that kind of money to fix a wall. It's a big deal. And so, yes, I'm willing to do whatever I need to do to try to fix the situation. I just don't feel like that I should be punished for something that was already pre-existing. So,
You're here asking us to grant a variance.
Right.
We're just asking you if you want us to postpone it and come up with maybe a lesser or some other alternative, and maybe get with your neighbors and talk it over, and then come back, or we take a vote tonight.
So
Either way you want.
what would be a reasonable, I'll postpone it, but what's a reasonable,
Well, probably, I would
request?
say, if it's 10 foot wide, if you take
It's
3
not-
foot off it, would be reasonable. If it's
not 10
6
foot wide,
foot
sir.
wide, I don't really know how wide that is.
it's about 7 foot
7 foot wide?
at the front, and then at the back, it's,
Well,
less.
it looks the same on here, but you can't tell. So
Yeah.
we need those dimensions, for one
Yeah,
thing. The
would
building
be
department
nice.
would absolutely need the dimensions of, the actual dimensions of the deck. And, and if it's, say, 7 foot wide, if you take 2 foot off, would that be, everybody be happy over that? I mean, there's a lot of alternatives here. But I think you know what the alternative is if we vote tonight,
Right,
because you have to have 3 votes,
okay,
okay? So would you like to postpone it?
sure.
Okay. Postpone, what would be the dates?
You got 2 dates here, April 8th or April 22nd.
Can you get everything you think, talk to your neighbors, get a,
My wife's due April 5th, so if we
April
can.
8th?
My wife is due on April 5th, so if we can,
22nd probably.
22nd?
yes, sir, please.
Okay.
Okay, then no problem. We can postpone it to April 22nd.
Need a motion.
We need a motion for that.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to, at the applicant's request, to postpone AB 2019-06 Dustin Carey, 262 Shorewood Drive, Court 0903-405-013, to April 22nd, 2019, for the applicant to bring back further information.
Support. Support. Any other discussion? Please call the roll.
Flood,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Durham,
Yes.
Garrels,
Yes. Okay, sir, well, maybe you can come up with a plan with your neighbor, and you guys get together and come up with the best thing you can and bring it into us, and we'll see what we can do.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
Thank you.
Shall we save this documentation?
Yeah. Next case would be AB 2019-07, Guido Cal's Car Wash at 4036 South Baldwin Road, 0932-101, 033. Petitioner is requesting 3 variances for the sign ordinance 153. Section 7, non-residential zoned areas, wall signs, Gingerville Village Center overlay. Variance to allow 2 additional wall signs north elevation to install a total of 3 wall signs north elevation. A 29.4 square foot variance above the allowed 56.1 wall signage to install a total of 85.5 square foot wall signage. And a non-residential zoned, Section 7 non-residential brown signs, GB Gingerville Village Center overlay, a 15 15-foot road right-of-way setback variance from the required 30-foot to allow a ground sign to be built 15 foot from the road right-of-way. Okay, how do you pronounce it?
Jetto.
Jetto, okay.
The G's silent. Yeah.
Oh, okay, the G, okay. Now, I understand, I mean, you know, it's obvious that the ground sign is because of the road.
Yeah, there used to be a ground, I'm fairly new to the area, so there used to be a ground sign there. This variance was approved. My understanding, only thing different, I wanted the LED sign above it, the digital LED, so I can say when we're open, when we're closed.
Okay,
So I think this variance was already approved. And then when we reapplied with Mo from the Sign Center, or Sign Studio,
okay, I don't remember an application for the,
I have it here, I believe.
yeah, okay, that's
It's in our
fine.
documentation.
Yeah, I might not have been here,
The
so.
road commission came in and did that back on April,
Oh, okay.
September 24th.
Oh, wait a minute, yeah,
Yep.
yep, you're right.
That's part of the road commission deal.
Okay, and then the signs that you want on the wall location, it's gonna be at the entrance to the car wash, right? The
Yeah, two of them were already, they've been there for years and years
Forever.
and years. I sold chemical, I used to be a car wash chemical salesman, so
Oh,
I know
okay.
those signs were there for, 15 years, so.
And so you want one additional over those two that were already there?
Correct, yeah. That way you can see the building on the south side. Of many friends and neighbors say they weren't sure what was inside that building for all the years.
I agree.
Okay.
You gotta be kidding me. That building?
Well, I'm saying
So
this,
you didn't know?
Everybody knows it's a car wash.
Oh, I don't know. Okay, yeah,
really tell it if you're driving southward.
yeah, if you're driving southwards, yeah, a lot of even my employees they'd say, I didn't know it was, we'd see cars coming, we didn't know it was a car wash.
I'm sorry, that was improper. I just was shocked.
Well, you've been around for long enough.
Yeah,
If you notice, there's not a sign on that building to identify what the building is.
yeah, it was more the
And when
previous
when the
owner's
sign
fault.
got taken down for the road widening, it's like, what is that?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to me, it's always been there.
Yeah.
The building, you know, it's
Exactly.
always been a car wash, so
Right.
I never really,
Right.
you know, I see the people go up, I mean, they don't need to know it's a car wash because they're going in to get the car washed. So,
If I can ask the applicant, I know one thing would be great, is since they widen the road, is that entrance is hard to see.
yeah, it is, yes, it
Until you
is.
get right, because you're coming out of the roundabout.
Yep,
or if
and you're coming
into
right
the
to it.
roundabout.
Yes,
And if
correct.
they put the new sign by that entrance, it would be greatly improve that. And one thing too, I noticed, I like this, is that he's increasing further off the road than what we granted the road commission originally. So we're gonna gain about 9 feet, something like that.
Yeah, this is 15 feet, which
Yeah.
is significant, so. Yeah, and I think that makes it a safer bet because, especially coming off the roundabout the way it is
Yep.
now, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no problem with this. Is there anybody here to speak to this matter? Okay, any further discussion by the way?
Mr.
Questions? Sure.
You mentioned that it had LEDs. They don't move, do they?
Do they constantly change?
Oh, what do you mean, the LEDs?
The LED
It appears if the lights rotate.
I think you could make it rotate, but you can make it not rotate. I think it's programmable. I haven't seen it, I'll be honest with you. I haven't spent
like
too much
it
time
did
with the sign guy.
rotate.
With our new sign ordinance that got updated,
Okay.
all that stuff's finally addressed in there.
Okay.
Remember before they used to come here to get the variances?
Yes,
for-
for the signage and.
For an LED, now that they don't have to even do that, it's all in a new,
Okay, so that's all addressed and, you know, Dan's, your
Yeah.
question.
yeah.
The guy 2 doors north of me, I'm sorry, has one, and he can change the programming or writing on it. I know we can do at least that with it.
Well, I know the intensity of it is really governed close.
That's, like, with the content, we can't cover, but the illumination.
The
of light,
illumination,
It's
yeah,
gonna be
that's
content
really
neutral.
tight.
Yeah, it's content.
So finally, with the new sign ordinance, that's,
It's free legal.
you see that they're not to come for us now for the LEDs.
Okay.
Stuff I didn't really think about.
Administrative, they take care.
Any other questions for the petitioner? Any motions?
Let's see. Try to use one of the new and improved ones.
Yeah, use the new and
Find it
improved.
here.
Oh, I gotta turn my stuff around. It's backwards. Upside down.
Let's see.
Would not be a hard copy.
Yeah, here we go.
Got it?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Where's? You got an agenda right there. Let me borrow that.
Yeah, right here.
Okay. In the case of AB 2019-07, Jetto, last name?
Correct. Collage.
Cal's Cal's Auto Wash at 4036 South Baldwin. Sidwell 09-32-101-033. Petitioner is requesting 3 variances from signed ordinance 153. Section 7, non-residential zoned areas, wall signs, GB, Gingellville Village Center overlay. Number 1, a variance to allow 2 additional wall signs, north elevation, to install a total of 3 wall signs, north elevation. Number 2, a 29.4 square foot variance above the 56.1 square foot of wall signage to install a total of 85.5 square foot of wall signage. Section 7, non-residential zoned areas, ground signs, GB, Gingellville Village Center overlay. Number 3, a 15-foot road right-of-way setback variance from the required 30-foot to allow a ground sign to be built 15 feet from the right-of-way. I would ask that in this case, the petitioner's request be granted. The petitioner is a new business. The practical difficulty would be that the building has never really been apparently signed as a car wash, and there are people that don't know this, and as a new business, he needs to get as many folks to stop by as he can. Following exceptional extraordinary circumstances, again, the business has been there for a long time, but apparently it's been poorly signed, and the gentleman would like to upgrade that. He is giving 15 foot off the right-of-way, road right-of-way, to increase the safety of the placement of the sign. Variance is necessary to give the gentleman the right to advertise his business to the greatest possible extent. Granting of the variance and modification will not be materially detrimental to the public. It is not going to be a traffic or sightline hazard. The illumination is spoken to in the application. It is not going to be gross or something that will bother people on the road. It will not impair anything to any neighboring properties. It will not increase the congestion in a public area, and nothing dangerous to fire or any of the surrounding properties. It will only, in this case, hopefully help this gentleman get his new bought business up to a running start.
I'll support that if you'll add that, in fact, the new stand sign was needed because the existing sign was removed for the road construction, and also that, in essence, there were 2 original signs, so we're really just adding 1 for a total of 3.
Motion amended. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Walker.
Yes.
Durham.
Yes.
Flood.
Yes.
Yarrow.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Coming in.
So do I need anything to give to the sign guy, or is it just tell him? Okay.
He's all set. Okay.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, public comment. Good to see you, Eugene.
Eugene McNabb, 2981 Judah.
I want to perform a citizen's arrest on this man for trying to run me down in the parking lot.
Dan's Excavating has about 22 acres of property, and they're using my property as a retainer pond. And if you look at the map, even the one that they gave you, the perimeter of their pit to the north, and it gets bigger as you go, is 1064. And where they took the berm out on the north side, that property is 1062. So they're already 4 foot or 2 foot higher than where the house sits at 2985. So this pit, as you go back in the pit on the plans that they sent you, goes to 1076 or something. And not only that, in the past times that they've asked for permits, and it's on their permits, that 1060 is the elevation of that pit when it's done. That means when you get 6 inches of topsoil on top of whatever it is, so they got to grade it lower than 1060 to replace it 6 inches of topsoil. And according to the State of Michigan Appeals Court, it calls that area how they word that, I can't remember it, but it calls it pit site. That's what they call it. And even the Maine board made a map in 14, or 10, no, 12, in 12, they made a map. And this map says that that pit site is on my property. So in other words, they got to grade my property off at 1060 because I'm part of the pit site. And the Court of Appeals doesn't say anything about Dan's property or my property. It says pit site. And according to the map or the permit that Bob Warren drew up, it lists my property and it says all affected property that's the pit site. If you want to go back to the map that was made in 98. So that's where you sit there. And the Court of Appeals says it has to be 1060 when it's done, and it has to have a registered, certified map of that area when it's done at 1060. That's right in the Court of Appeals.
Well, we were out there on the site review Saturday, and we looked. I saw the ice over there, but then again, it's hard to tell this time of year. Water doesn't, with frozen ground, water doesn't soak in or anything. So I really couldn't tell whether it would make it over to that pipe. That I didn't even know they were putting retention ponds, like these little ponds in there, but they are now. I think there's several, right?
3.
2, 3?
Yes.
3 ponds are going to be on that site to collect the water. And Brett assured us that water, the water that normally flows that way would go into that pond that's in the front there. That's the first part that's going to be restored, is that section.
Okay, if you look at the map,
That's what they told us.
those 3 ponds they're putting in is 1059, 1 foot.
The bottom?
Below, huh?
The bottom of the pond?
Bottom of the retainer ponds, is the 3 of them putting in, is 1059. And the pit's supposed to be leveled off at 1060.
Yeah, we'll have to look at that when they...
And not only that,
Engineers.
Yeah, with the engineers.
not only that, at the north side of this pit where they're talking about, that is already 1064.
Yeah, that's what you said.
So when that drains, that's going to drain right in and drain on me and drain right out on Judah Road. It's not draining back in on that.
Into the retention pond.
That's
Okay,
right.
Well, again, that's something the engineers will have to address at the meeting. I mean, I don't have the map in front of me now, and I didn't even know we had the retention. My map didn't even show the retention ponds that I had out there. So, have to look at the original map and see. So,
And I would suggest that you get with the township and get a hold of that court order and read that. Because anything you decide here, and you can go through all this trouble and make all your decisions that you want. But when the appeals court says this is what it has to be, you're wasting your time.
We'll take our advice from our township attorney.
Huh?
We'll take our advice from our township attorney like we've always done before, Gene.
Well, Dan Kelly was there, so he knows what's in the...
right,
We'll make sure Dan knows that.
is aware.
Yeah, even if he don't like it. He's got to go by what the Court of Appeals says.
And we're going to go by the advice of our township attorney, too.
Right, yes, but if he gives you the correct advice, that's what it's going to be, because he was there.
Yeah, so we'll be conversing with Dan.
Yeah, but that's one thing we were concerned about even on the site review. We saw the water over there, but again, this time of year, you can't, really prove anything.
That's it, though.
Nice.
But if it's set up right, it won't run there.
Yeah, well,
The thing of it is, my property is sand there. Theirs is clay. Theirs won't drain.
right. Yeah.
So it runs onto mine, and then when the weather warms up, it drains into my sand.
Okay.
You remember years ago, when you brought that problem to us, we made them put that drain pipe in there,
Yeah, but that drain pipe was never put in right.
but it helped alleviate your problem for a couple of years there, didn't it?
Very little, but it's what happened. It drained from their pit, which was in back of 2985 where their house is at. It drained that and drained around the berm onto my property, then into the pipe, then back onto their property. But now that the berm is out, it shouldn't drain there. If it was put in right, it would drain from that property into the pit. But it can't drain into the pit because the pit is 1064 and the back of the 2985 is 1062.
Okay. Well,
So there's a foot
we'll have to
different
look at
there.
that. We'll get with look at that with the engineers and
Yep.
see what that's about.
See?
Mr. McNabb, I think our meeting is April 22nd, I think.
Is that what it is, Lynn?
April
That's the
22nd.
review of that stuff, so don't miss the meeting.
Huh?
April 22nd.
Does Gene get a notice on that, too?
Yes.
Because he's within the 300-foot, yeah. You'll get your notice, too, in the mail, right?
Yeah, I'll get a notice mail.
Okay, well, thanks for bringing it to us.
Yeah.
We'll put this picture in the file.
Yeah.
If I got enough nerves to show up.
That's never been a problem, has it?
I won't try to run you down, don't worry.
We'll try to get a walker here sooner so he's not on the parking lot.
Now, I'll say something, don't mean nothing, it's just my opinion. But any time a structure is built 3 inches from another person's property line, they can't even maintain that structure without getting on the neighbor's property. And the neighbor can say, stay off my property, so you can't maintain when you're within 3 inches of the
We
property
understand.
line.
Totally. Yeah.
We got a seat here for you. You want to come up and sit on this?
Huh?
We got a seat.
No,
up here for
you wouldn't want me because I'm probably a little more outspoken than anybody on this board. I don't know if Mike Flood gets pretty outspoken.
Well, thank you, Gene. I think that's a compliment.
Thanks, Gene. We'll keep that in mind.
I almost run into one of your board members out there coming in today.
Yeah, that was. Thanks, Gene.
All right, we'll see you on 22nd.
Okay, next we have a memo from the Planning and Zoning Coordinator. It states, this is from Lynn Harrison, if Zoning Board of Appeals makes a motion to postpone a case, never mind. That just lists the dates that we could postpone to. I'm looking for the other, here it is. We have a memo, there has been no applications received from the zoning board. The ZBA application deadline of February 22nd. We may want to consider canceling the March 25th meeting.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I gladly make the motion to cancel the March 25th, 2019 ZBA meeting due to a lack of agenda items.
Support.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same? No. Okay, that's canceled. Next, we have committee reports. We have none.
This gentleman didn't have any.
Did you have any public comments?
I'm just here to see the process.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. I just saw him out there.
Next, we have committee
And
reports.
you'll be better prepared next time, right?
Members' comments. I don't have any comments. We'll just have to go through the process for like we do everything else as far as the pits go, and it'll just work its way out.
Yeah.
Question for you.
Yes.
When they fill a pit, do they compact it as they fill it?
Yes.
How?
They have equipment there to compact.
So you can't expect it to settle.
Well, I mean, everything settles, no matter, I've been around construction long enough to know that 100% compaction still settles.
That's why I was curious if they would have to slightly overfill it to get it down where it needs to be.
Yeah.
And the pond, the belly of it being lower than the overall grade, that's why it's a pond.
You know, again, I don't know if those numbers are correct, but, you know, they have to follow whatever the correct numbers are on the maps.
Yeah.
And if the numbers say 1060, that's what it is. If they say 1065, that's what it's got to be. But I don't know if that's true or not. That's up to our engineers to verify it, and they build it accordingly.
As you said, it's a process.
Yep, that's right.
Mr. McNabb was correct, too, that in the ordinance, they have to restoration of the land with topsoil and seeding and things like that.
Absolutely. And, you know, those ponds were about 4 foot deep, so, you know, whatever it is, it has to be.
That's where we rely on our engineering firm to.
Absolutely. And we rely on our legal department to give us direction there. So.
Exactly. Make sure our ordinance is being followed.
Yep. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Support? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We're out.